Hello, fellow patriots. Thank you for joining me once again on Powerhouse Tactical. This is the first video in 2020, and I apologize for such a long hiatus. Our academy has been extremely busy with a huge surge of students wanting to get trained, and since the outbreak of pandemic, as well as the riots and the looting in recent months, many people have woken up by these chaotic disasters that each one of us need to take the responsibility to protect our own families and not just rely on our government to always take care of us. This is why I've decided to make this particular series of 3 videos for you. So let's get started. So this is not a video that will prepare you for some zombie apocalypse like an end of the world like situations and disasters. This series is not even to prepare you to survive the next 30 years, 15 years, or even 5 years. There are plenty of videos out there on YouTube and other places that talk about those kind of situations and preparation that's for that type of situation. This video is more for those of you who share our concern and also ideals about this nation, but just have not gotten around to start preparing yet. Now, some people might say that it might be too late, but we'll see. We'll see if it is. You have to start somewhere. And eventually and slowly but constantly build up your preparations to get to a point where you can survive for 10, 15, 30 years if that is how you feel is needed. Again, this series isn't for the zombie apocalypse like type of situation. Since the beginning of the year, there have been a huge fear of a virus called COVID-19. COVID-19 is a type of coronavirus that began in China and rapidly spread out through the world and became really fast and widely spreading pandemic. COVID-19 is a new strain, like I said, of coronavirus, just like previously known SARS and MERS viruses outbreaks in Asia and Middle East region in the world. While we should take the necessary precautions, of course, to prevent unnecessary spread of this disease, we should also understand it properly so that our fear does not become an unnecessary barrier to our daily lives. I mean, panic has never helped any situation and only causes us to make wrong decisions to potentially make things worse than it needs to be. Unprecedented, never seen anything like it, are some of the language we hear from the mainstream media describing the current pandemic. But is COVID-19 pandemic really something that is like nothing that we as human race have ever experienced and survived? Absolutely not true. That is a complete over-exaggerated statement. In fact, throughout human history, we have seen and experienced endless series of pandemics and scores of outbreaks. Smallpox, Spanish flu, cholera, AIDS, to name just a few. We must put things into a right perspective in order to keep a cool head and make the right kinds of decisions for preparations and precautions. Since the ancient times, humans have endured many pandemics. Antonine plague in the 1st century, all the way to the current COVID-19, we as a race have met with and survived through Black Death, smallpox, great plagues of 17th century and the 18th century, multiple cholera outbreaks and pandemics, yellow fever, Spanish flu, HIV, AIDS, and so on. Black Death had killed 200 million people over 5 years. That's close to 4 million people dead every month. Smallpox killed almost 60 million. AIDS continues to kill to this day, with a total death toll of over 30 million people so far. With all these incredibly deadly viruses, humankind has come through stronger than ever. But the mainstream media and the political powers be have taken this opportunity to instill unnecessary amounts of fear into the minds of mass population, attempting to control various aspects of each and every life. But my purpose of this video isn't to debate that issue, so I'll move on. Simultaneously, along with pandemic, we are experiencing one of the worst civil unrests we have seen in many years. What the mainstream media and the Democrat Party continuously claimed as peaceful protests have quickly morphed into mass riots and lootings in every major metropolitan area in the United States. Destruction and setting buildings ablaze in these cities have become a nightly activity for months on end. So-called peaceful protesters have now openly armed themselves to attack regular citizens and the law enforcement alike. A Black Lives Matter group joined by the Antifa have now armed themselves and begun killing citizens that are not part of their group. As if that wasn't enough, many politicians on the left have joined these groups in support of their ideas, such as defunding the police, while Democratic mayors and governors of these areas are keeping law enforcement from doing their jobs and just continue to order them to stand down. The unreal level of civil unrest, organized violence, no respect for the rules of law, with having the hands of the police to be tied behind their backs, can only result in a very obvious result. And we are already witnessing them all over the nation. Unprecedented rate of increase in crime, with police being spread thin by all the civil unrest, as well as the government telling them to stand down. On top of the scared citizens by this fear-mongering pandemic situation, is no wonder the criminal elements are having the time of their lives at the expense of the citizens. Many citizens, having to witness all this for months on end, now feel that this can no longer be just watched. Many of them feel that the government has now failed them, and the law enforcement cannot be counted on to protect them and their families and their properties. So many who are already armed, thanks to our Constitution, have began taking things upon themselves to protect their property and the lives of their loved ones. This isn't the first time in modern history that regular citizens had to protect themselves due to the lack of police presence and just sheer size of the disaster. In the early 90s, during the major riot in Los Angeles, California, there were a group known as the Rooftop Koreans that had armed themselves to protect their property and their loved ones from the massive and violent rioters. This was a clear and great example of free Americans exercising their individual rights and protecting themselves. But whether you agree with one side or the other side, or neither side for that matter, the fact remains. The fact is that this is happening, whether you like it or not. What we once took for granted may no longer be something we can count on. Seeing rows and rows of shelves in the grocery stores filled with anything and everything we wished, mounds of fresh meat and produce to our heart's content. We never thought twice about taking a quick drive over to the local grocery store and finding whatever our family desired, as healthy or decadent as we can possibly want. we would find it there. That is no longer a guarantee for us. Just a couple of months ago, we as a nation have witnessed something that we never thought would be possible, at least not in America. We ran out of toilet paper. Whether it was just a sheer panic of unwarranted panic of our citizens or not, is not the point here. What is important is that the social environment that has caused people to no longer believe that the grocery stores and the warehouse stores will always and forever be able to supply toilet papers for us. The confidence in our government, as well as the people's confidence in our industries, are rapidly dwindling. There's no guarantee that the toilet paper run out was just a fluke, and that kind of situation will not happen again soon. In fact, all the signs are telling us that it will happen again. It will happen worse. In many parts of the country, the masked rioters have already been blocking roads and setting retailers on fire. With the trucks not being able to deliver the supplies, and the stores burnt down where nobody can go to buy things, where would you get your supplies? What we used to know as obvious and fully expected, something we never thought twice about, are no longer so obvious. Many fail to realize also that things are going to get much worse before they actually get better. As many Americans, I still believe in the strength and resolve of Americans. We will eventually work ourselves out of this mess, but until then, things will get worse. Imagine what the situation will be like if Senator Biden wins the election. Conservatives will claim election fraud, and the left will riot even stronger, which may lead to much more violent clashes, possibly deadly. Some may vaguely assume that things will be all fine if President Trump wins the election, which right now it seems more likely scenario at this point. But that is also a very naive assumption. Do you really think the BLM and the Antifa will concede and go away the day after the election? I am not creating this video series to start yet another debate for or against certain movements. I also did not create this video to spread yet more fear among my friends and fellow patriots. The purpose of this series of 3 videos is to accept what is happening, recognize them in our country as what it is, and do what's needed to be done to survive through it as best and least painful as we possibly can. Some might say it's too late. If you have not already been preparing, it's too late for you. Well, who knows? It may be, but you know what they say, better late than never. Beginning is half the battle, and so on. So join me in the part 2 of the series on what we might be able to do so that our families who count on us to provide for them will have a better chance of surviving through the potentially upcoming SHTF or without rule of law state of things. Thank you guys for joining me once again and watching this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe to support this channel. And until our next episode, please stay safe, stay yellow, prepare, protect, and pray. This is Powerhouse Tactical.